The morning sun cast long shadows across the Fort Benning training grounds as Sergeant Maya Rodriguez stepped off the transport truck with the rest of Charlie Company. The Georgia heat was already building, promising another scorching day on the rifle range. Maya pulled her Kevlar helmet down slightly, shielding her dark eyes from the glare as she surveyed the familiar landscape of shooting stations and target berms stretching into the distance. At 24, Maya had been in the Army for 6 years, but this qualification was different. She was the only female soldier in an all-male infantry unit that had recently opened to women. The pressure was immense, and she felt it every day in the skeptical glances and whispered conversations that stopped when she approached. Today's advanced marksmanship test would determine who moved forward to sniper school selection, and Maya knew every shot would be scrutinized. Staff Sergeant Williams, the range safety officer, began his briefing with the usual warnings about muzzle discipline and safety protocols. Maya had heard it hundreds of times, but she listened intently anyway. Details mattered in this business, and complacency killed soldiers. Around her, the other candidates shuffled their feet and checked their equipment. Most were seasoned infantry veterans with multiple deployments under their belts. Today's course of fire includes precision shooting at extended ranges, Williams announced, his voice carrying across the group. We'll be engaging targets from 300 to 800 meters using the M24 sniper weapon system. Each candidate gets exactly 4 shots at the final target. 4 shots to prove you belong in advanced training. Maya felt her pulse quicken slightly. The M24 was a beautiful weapon, a Remington 700 action chambered in 7.62 NATO, capable of incredible accuracy in skilled hands. She had qualified expert with her M4 carbine countless times, but the precision demands of long-range shooting were entirely different. Wind, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure. Every environmental factor affected bullet trajectory at these distances. The armorer called out names alphabetically, distributing the sniper rifles along with match-grade ammunition. When Maya's name was called, she noticed several soldiers exchange glances. Private First Class Henderson, a muscular soldier from Tennessee, made a comment under his breath that she pretended not to hear. She had learned to pick her battles carefully in this male-dominated environment. Maya examined her assigned rifle meticulously, checking the scope mounts, bolt action, and trigger mechanism. The weapon felt solid and well-maintained. She worked the bolt several times, feeling the smooth action cycle. The Schmidt and Bender scope was already zeroed, but she would verify that during the preliminary stages of the course. The first phase involved shooting at closer ranges to confirm zero and build confidence. Maya settled into the prone position behind the firing line, adjusting her body position until the rifle felt like a natural extension of herself. The fundamentals of marksmanship were the same regardless of the weapon: stable platform, consistent sight picture, breath control, smooth trigger squeeze. Her first shot, at 200 meters, struck dead center in the bullseye. The target monitor displayed the hit location on screens visible to all the candidates and instructors. Maya heard someone mutter "lucky shot," but ignored it. She knew it was anything but lucky. Hundreds of hours of practice, studying ballistics tables, and dry-firing exercises had prepared her for this moment. As the course progressed to longer ranges, Maya continued to demonstrate exceptional accuracy. At 400 meters, her 3 shots formed a tight group that could be covered by a quarter. At 600 meters, she adapted quickly to the increased wind drift and elevation adjustments required. With each successful engagement, she noticed the atmosphere around her changing subtly. Specialist Martinez, the unit's designated marksman, nodded approvingly at her performance. "That girl can shoot," he said to his buddy, not bothering to lower his voice. It was the first genuinely positive comment Maya had heard from her male colleagues about her abilities. The heat grew oppressive as the day progressed. Sweat ran down Maya's face as she waited for her turn at the final 800-meter target. This was the distance that separated good shooters from exceptional ones. Environmental factors were amplified, and minor errors in technique became major misses. Many skilled marksmen struggled at this range. Maya watched as other candidates took their turns at the distant target. Some scored solid hits, others missed entirely. Henderson, who had been vocal about his skepticism regarding women in combat roles, managed 3 hits out of 4 shots. He seemed pleased with himself as he returned from the firing line, making eye contact with Maya for the first time that day. "Let's see what you got, Rodriguez," he said with a challenging smile. Maya nodded silently and began her approach to the firing position. The range fell quiet as she settled behind the rifle. 800 meters seemed impossibly far as she looked through the scope of the silhouette target. The wind was variable, shifting between 5 and 10 miles per hour from left to right. Temperature had climbed to over 90 degrees, causing mirage to dance above the desert floor. She loaded 4 rounds into the magazine, each one a precisely manufactured match cartridge designed for accuracy. The weight of expectation pressed down on her shoulders as she realized that everyone, instructors and students alike, was watching her performance with intense interest. Some were hoping she would succeed, others expecting her to fail. Maya took a deep breath and began her shooting sequence. She had trained for this moment countless times, but now it was real. 4 shots would determine whether she advanced to the next level of training or returned to her regular unit. 4 shots would either validate her presence in this elite group or confirm the doubts of those who questioned whether women belonged in combat specialties. The crosshairs settled on the center of the distant target as Maya began her breathing cycle. Everything she had worked for over the past 6 years came down to the next few minutes. The rifle felt perfectly balanced in her hands as she prepared to take her first shot at 800 meters. In the silence of the range, with 37 male soldiers and for instructors watching, Maya Rodriguez squeezed the trigger for the first time at the maximum distance. The shot would be the beginning of something extraordinary that none of them would ever forget. The rifle recoiled smoothly against Maya's shoulder as the first shot broke. She maintained her sight picture through the follow-through, watching as the bullet traced its path downrange through the shimmering heat waves. 800 meters was far enough that there was a noticeable delay between the shot and the impact. The target monitor remained blank for what felt like an eternity. Then, the screen lit up with a bright red dot dead center in the scoring rings. A perfect bullseye. A murmur rippled through the watching soldiers. Maya heard someone say, "Holy shit," under their breath, followed immediately by a sharp reprimand from Staff Sergeant Williams about proper range etiquette. She ignored the commotion and focused on preparing for her second shot. One perfect shot could be luck, but consistency would prove her skill. The wind had shifted slightly, now coming from a different angle. Maya checked her wind flags and made a minute adjustment to her scope. She had studied meteorology extensively, understanding how temperature gradients and barometric pressure affected bullet flight at extreme ranges. Most soldiers learned to shoot by feel and experience, but Maya approached it like a science. Her breathing settled into the rhythm she had practiced thousands of times. Inhale, exhale halfway, natural respiratory pause, squeeze. The trigger broke cleanly at exactly the same pressure point as before. The second shot fell identical to the first, which was exactly what she wanted. Consistency in technique led to consistency in results. The target monitor updated again. Another center hit, this one slightly to the right of the first, but still well within the 10 ring. Maya allowed herself a small smile. She was shooting better than she had ever shot before when it mattered most. Behind her, the atmosphere was changing. The casual conversations had stopped entirely. Even the instructors were paying closer attention now. Master Sergeant Thompson, the senior marksmanship instructor, had walked over from the tower to observe more closely. He was a legend in Army sniper circles, with confirmed kills from multiple combat deployments. 2 down, 2 to go, Maya whispered to herself as she prepared for the third shot. The pressure was mounting, but she had learned to channel nervous energy into focus. Her heart rate was elevated but controlled. Her breathing remained steady. The rifle felt like part of her body now. The third shot sequence began exactly like the previous 2. Maya checked the wind conditions again, noting that the flags were now hanging almost still. The mirage had intensified as the temperature climbed, creating a shimmering curtain between her position and the target. She adjusted her elevation slightly to compensate for the changing atmospheric conditions. This time, as she settled into her final breathing cycle, Maya became aware of something unusual. The normal background noise of a military training range, distant vehicle engines, radio chatter, the sound of other training activities, had faded to almost nothing. She realized that word of her performance was spreading beyond their immediate group. People were stopping their activities to watch. The crosshairs steadied on the center of the target. Maya's world narrowed to the tiny circle of the scope's field of view. Everything else ceased to exist. Her breathing stopped at the natural pause point. Her finger took up the slack in the trigger, and she applied steady rearward pressure. The shot surprised her, which was exactly how it should happen. Good marksmanship required the shot to break subconsciously while the conscious mind maintained sight alignment. The bullet left the barrel at just over 2,000 feet per second, beginning its 800-meter journey to the target. When the third hit appeared on the monitor, this one slightly left of center, but still a perfect 10-ring shot, the crowd behind Maya had grown significantly. Word was spreading across the training areas that something special was happening on Range 12. Soldiers from other companies were finding excuses to walk past and observe. Maya was now shooting better than many seasoned snipers could manage under ideal conditions. 3 perfect shots at 800 meters was an exceptional performance for anyone. For a soldier who had never attended sniper school, shooting in front of a crowd while carrying the weight of proving herself worthy of her unit, it was approaching the realm of the impossible. Henderson no longer looked confident. His earlier swagger had been replaced by a grudging respect that he was trying hard not to show. Other soldiers who had been dismissive of Maya's presence were now watching her with genuine curiosity rather than skepticism. She had earned something that couldn't be given or taken away: their attention and respect through demonstrated competence. Master Sergeant Thompson stepped closer to the firing line. He had seen thousands of soldiers attempt this qualification over his 20-year career. He had witnessed exceptional shooting before, but Maya's performance was standing out even to his experienced eye. The consistency of her form, the precision of her shots, and her composure under pressure marked her as someone with rare natural talent combined with serious preparation. "One more shot, Rodriguez," Williams called out unnecessarily. Everyone on the range knew the count. Maya nodded and began to prepare for a final shot. This was the one that would complete a perfect score, something achieved by less than 1% of candidates. The pressure was enormous now, with dozens of people watching and waiting. She had proven she could shoot accurately, but could she handle the psychological pressure of trying to finish perfectly? She loaded the final round into the chamber, a match-grade 175-grain Sierra bullet that represented the pinnacle of ammunition technology. The cartridge had been manufactured to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch, designed to fly true even at extreme distances. Everything was now up to her ability to execute the shot properly. The wind had picked up again, but Maya had been tracking its patterns throughout the shoot. She made a calculated adjustment to her point of aim, moving the crosshairs slightly to compensate for the lateral drift the bullet would experience during its flight. 800 meters gave the wind plenty of time to affect bullet trajectory. As she settled into position for the final time, Maya felt a strange calm descend over her. All the noise and distractions faded away. The watching crowd became invisible. Even the pressure of the moment seemed to diminish. She was alone with her rifle and a distant target, engaged in the fundamental challenge that had defined marksmanship for centuries. Her breathing cycle began automatically, controlled by muscle memory developed through countless hours of training. The rifle's weight distributed evenly across her body as she assumed the perfect prone position. Through the scope, the target appeared sharp and clear despite the heat shimmer and distance. This final shot would determine more than just her score on the qualification. It would establish a reputation within the unit and potentially change how she was perceived by her peers. Success would open doors to advanced training opportunities. Failure would confirm the doubts of those who questioned whether she belonged. Maya's finger found the trigger and began to apply the precise pressure that would send the fourth and final bullet downrange toward its destination 800 meters away. The fourth shot broke with perfect precision, the trigger releasing at exactly the right moment in Maya's breathing cycle. She held her position, maintaining sight picture through the recoil and recovery as the bullet completed its journey downrange. The silence on the range was complete now, with dozens of soldiers and instructors holding their breath as they waited for the target monitor to update. The red dot appeared in the exact center of the bullseye, overlapping with her first shot. 4 shots, for perfect hits, at 800 meters. The electronic scoring system displayed the results, 40 out of 40 possible points. A perfect score. The explosion of noise from the watching crowd was immediate and overwhelming. Soldiers hooped and cheered, their voices carrying across the training area. Even the instructors were grinning and shaking their heads in amazement. Master Sergeant Thompson walked over to Maya as she cleared her rifle and made it safe. "That was some of the finest shooting I've seen in 20 years, he said, extending his hand. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" Maya stood up and shook his hand, trying to process what had just happened. "My grandfather taught me when I was young, Sergeant. He was a Marine sniper in Vietnam. Been practicing ever since." The story was true, but incomplete. Maya's grandfather had indeed been a Marine sniper, and he had taught her the fundamentals of marksmanship during summer visits to his farm in Texas. But her exceptional performance today was the result of years of dedicated practice that went far beyond what most soldiers invested in their shooting skills. While her peers spent their free time at bars or playing video games, Maya had spent weekends at civilian shooting ranges, often driving hours to find facilities that offered long-range shooting opportunities. She studied ballistics textbooks, watched instructional videos, and even took online courses in meteorology to better understand environmental factors affecting bullet flight. She had also invested her own money in equipment and ammunition. The Army provided basic training, but Maya wanted to excel, not just meet minimum standards. She bought her own rangefinder, wind meter, and shooting software to calculate ballistic solutions. She kept detailed logs of every practice session, noting environmental conditions and analyzing her performance. Henderson walked over, his attitude completely transformed. "I owe you an apology, Rodriguez. That was incredible shooting. I've been to sniper school twice and never shot that well under pressure." Maya nodded graciously, accepting his handshake. She had proven herself in the most objective way possible, through demonstrated performance that couldn't be argued with or explained away. Numbers didn't lie, and neither did a target monitor witnessed by dozens of people. Other soldiers crowded around, offering congratulations and asking questions about her technique. The same men who had been skeptical of her presence were now genuinely interested in learning from her. Maya answered their questions patiently, sharing knowledge about breathing techniques, trigger control, and reading environmental conditions. "The key is consistency," she explained to Specialist Carter, who had struggled with the longer-range targets. "Everything has to be exactly the same for every shot. Body position, breathing, sight picture, trigger squeeze. You can't change anything between shots and expect the same results." Staff Sergeant Williams called for attention and announced the overall results. Maya had achieved not only a perfect score, but had done so with a group size that measured less than 2 inches at 800 meters. For comparison, the military standard for sniper-grade accuracy was 4 inches at that distance. Her performance exceeded professional sniper standards by a significant margin. The implications were immediate and far-reaching. Maya would be automatically accepted into the next sniper school class, skipping the usual selection process that eliminated 70% of candidates. Her commanding officer would be briefed on her exceptional performance. Word would spread throughout the sniper community that an unknown female soldier had achieved something remarkable. But Maya was already thinking beyond the immediate triumph. She knew that exceptional performance brought exceptional scrutiny. She would be watched more closely now, held to higher standards, and expected to maintain this level of excellence. The pressure would intensify rather than decrease. As the crowd began to disperse and equipment was cleaned and returned to the armory, Master Sergeant Thompson approached Maya again. "I'm recommending you for immediate enrollment in our advanced marksmanship instructor course," he said. "We need people who can teach others to shoot at your level." The offer was both an honor and a responsibility. Teaching marksmanship required not just skill, but the ability to break down complex techniques into understandable components. Maya would be responsible for developing the next generation of Army marksmen and potentially future snipers. That evening in the barracks, the atmosphere around Maya had completely changed. Soldiers who had previously treated her with polite distance now included her in conversations and asked for her opinions on equipment and techniques. She had crossed an invisible threshold through her performance, earning acceptance that couldn't be granted through policy changes or sensitivity training. Private Rodriguez, a young soldier who shared Maya's surname, but no relation, approached her hesitantly. "Sergeant, my girlfriend wants to join the Army, but she's worried about fitting in with the guys. What would you tell her?" Maya considered the question carefully. "Tell her that respect has to be earned through performance, not given because of policies. But once you prove yourself, good soldiers will recognize that and treat you accordingly. The key is being so good at your job that no one can question your competence." The conversation continued late into the evening as soldiers shared their own experiences and challenges. Maya found herself in the unexpected role of mentor and advisor, offering perspective on everything from dealing with difficult sergeants to maximizing training opportunities. Her perfect shooting had opened doors to influence that extended far beyond marksmanship. Late that night, as the barracks finally quieted down, Maya lay in her bunk reflecting on the day's events. 6 months ago, she had been fighting for basic acceptance in her unit. Today, she had demonstrated capabilities that exceeded most of her male colleagues. Tomorrow, she would begin preparing for sniper school and the advanced instructor course. But Maya also understood that this was just the beginning. One perfect day of shooting had opened opportunities, but sustaining excellence over time would be far more challenging. She would need to maintain her skills while taking on new responsibilities and facing higher expectations. She thought about her grandfather, who had passed away 2 years earlier. He had taught her that marksmanship was about more than hitting targets. It was about discipline, patience, and the pursuit of perfection. Today, she had honored his memory and the lessons he had taught her as a young girl shooting tin cans off fence posts on his Texas farm. Maya closed her eyes and began planning her training schedule for the coming weeks. Sniper school would test every aspect of her abilities, not just her shooting skills. She would need to excel in field craft, camouflage, stalking, observation, and tactical decision-making. The 4 perfect shots today had proven she could shoot, but becoming a qualified sniper would require much more. As sleep finally came, Maya Rodriguez smiled quietly to herself. She had taken a significant step toward achieving her goals, but she knew the most challenging parts of her journey still lay ahead. 3 months later, Maya found herself at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the Army's premier sniper school. The morning fog clung to the pine trees as she joined 19 other candidates for the opening ceremony of the 8-week course. She was the only woman in the class, but the dynamic was different now. Word of her perfect qualification score had preceded her, and she was beginning with credibility rather than having to earn it from scratch. The course instructor, Master Sergeant Kevin Black, was a legend in the sniper community with confirmed kills from deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. His reputation for demanding excellence was matched only by his ability to push students beyond what they thought possible. During the initial briefing, he made it clear that marksmanship was just one component of what they would learn. "Anyone can learn to shoot accurately with enough practice," Black announced to the assembled candidates. What separates snipers from marksmen is the ability to get close enough to take the shot without being detected, then escape without being caught. You're going to learn to become invisible. The curriculum was intense and comprehensive. Students studied ballistics, meteorology, camouflage techniques, field craft, observation skills, and tactical planning. Physical fitness standards were extreme, with long-distance movements carrying full equipment loads. Mental resilience was tested through sleep deprivation exercises and high-stress scenarios. Maya excelled in the classroom portions, her methodical approach to learning serving her well. She had already studied much of the ballistics material on her own, but the military's systematic approach filled in gaps in her knowledge. The meteorology classes were particularly valuable, teaching her to read subtle environmental signs that could affect shot placement at extreme ranges. The fieldcraft training proved more challenging. Maya had grown up in suburban environments and lacked the instinctive understanding of natural terrain that some of her rural classmates possessed. She compensated by studying harder and practicing longer, often spending her limited free time working on camouflage techniques and movement drills. During the third week, the class conducted their first major field exercise. Students were required to move undetected through several miles of terrain, establish hide sites, and conduct observation missions while avoiding detection by instructor teams actively hunting for them. Maya paired with Sergeant First Class Williams, a seasoned infantry soldier from Montana who had volunteered to work with her when others hesitated. "You move too fast," Williams observed as they prepared their equipment the night before the exercise. City people always want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. In the woods, slow is smooth, and smooth is invisible. His advice proved invaluable during the exercise. Maya learned to move at a fraction of her normal pace, testing each footstep for branches or leaves that might make noise. She discovered that patience was as important as physical skill in remaining undetected. The exercise lasted 36 hours, and by the end, Maya felt like she had learned more about fieldcraft than in all her previous training combined. The shooting portions of the course pushed her skills to new levels. Targets appeared at unknown distances from awkward positions with time constraints. Maya learned to estimate range using mil-dot reticles, calculate elevation and windage adjustments quickly, and engage multiple targets in sequence. The pressure was constant, with instructors evaluating every aspect of their performance. During week 5, the class conducted their first live-fire stalking exercise. Students had to approach within 200 meters of instructor positions without being detected, then engage targets with live ammunition. Maya's partner for this exercise was Staff Sergeant Thompson from Alabama, who had initially been skeptical of working with her, but had warmed up after witnessing her shooting skills. They began their stalk before dawn, moving through dense undergrowth and open terrain while instructor teams scanned for them with binoculars and spotting scopes. The exercise covered nearly 3 miles and took 6 hours to complete. Maya learned to think like prey rather than predator, using every piece of available concealment and moving only when instructors were looking elsewhere. When they finally reached their shooting position, Maya had to engage a target at 400 meters while lying in tall grass with limited visibility. The shot had to be taken quickly before instructors could spot their muzzle flash and eliminate them from the exercise. Her bullet struck the center of the target, and they successfully withdrew without detection. "Outstanding work, Rodriguez," Master Sergeant Black commented during the after-action review. "You've developed excellent instincts for this work." The compliment meant more to Maya than any she had received, because it came from someone whose opinion carried weight throughout the Army's Special Operations community. Black was known for his honest assessments, never giving praise that wasn't earned. As the course progressed, Maya found herself taking on informal leadership responsibilities within her class. Other students sought her advice on shooting techniques and equipment modifications. She helped struggling classmates during off-duty hours, sharing the knowledge she had accumulated through years of dedicated practice. The academic testing was rigorous, covering everything from ballistics calculations to target identification procedures. Maya scored in the top 5% on every exam, her methodical study habits serving her well. She had learned to break complex problems into manageable components, a skill that proved valuable across all aspects of the course. During week 7, the class conducted their final field exercise, a comprehensive test of all skills learned throughout the course. Students had to plan and execute a simulated mission involving reconnaissance, target engagement, and extraction while avoiding detection by opposing forces. Maya was selected as team leader for a 4-person element tasked with eliminating a high-value target at extreme range. The mission required 18 hours of preparation and 36 hours of execution. Maya's team had to infiltrate through hostile territory, establish an observation post, confirm target identity, and engage from over 1,000 meters away. Every aspect of their training was tested under realistic conditions, with instructors role-playing enemy forces. Maya's leadership during the exercise impressed both instructors and fellow students. She demonstrated the ability to make tactical decisions under pressure while maintaining the technical precision required for accurate shooting. When a moment came to take the shot at 1,200 meters, her bullet found its mark despite challenging wind conditions and the stress of the scenario. Textbook mission execution, Black commented during the debrief. Rodriguez, you have natural leadership instincts to go along with your shooting ability. That combination is rare. The final week included comprehensive testing and graduation preparations. Maya had maintained her perfect shooting record throughout the course while excelling in all other areas as well. She finished second in overall class rankings, behind only a Special Forces sergeant with multiple combat deployments who had attended the course to update his skills. On graduation day, Maya stood with her 19 classmates as they received their sniper badges and school certificates. She had not only completed one of the Army's most challenging courses, but had distinguished herself as an exceptional performer. The shy soldier who had struggled for acceptance 6 months earlier had become a confident leader and expert marksman. But even as she celebrated this achievement, Maya knew that her real test would come in the field. Training was preparation, but actual missions would determine whether she could apply her skills under the ultimate pressure of combat conditions. 8 months after graduation from sniper school, Staff Sergeant Maya Rodriguez found herself deployed to Afghanistan as part of a Special Operations Task Force. The mountainous terrain of Kunar Province presented challenges that no training environment could fully replicate. Thin air at high altitude affected bullet trajectory, temperature extremes tested equipment reliability, and enemy fighters who knew the terrain intimately made every mission dangerous. Maya's reputation had preceded her to the deployment. Her perfect qualification score and outstanding sniper school performance had made her something of a legend within the special operations community. But she knew that combat would be the ultimate test of whether her skills translated to real-world effectiveness. Her first mission came 3 weeks into the deployment. Intelligence had identified a high-value target meeting with local Taliban commanders in a compound located in a remote valley. Maya's team was tasked with providing overwatch and precision fire support for a capture operation led by Special Forces operators. The mission began with a grueling 12-hour movement through mountainous terrain to reach their observation position. Maya carried her customized M24 sniper weapon system along with 60 pounds of additional equipment, including ammunition, optics, communications gear, and survival supplies. The movement was conducted entirely at night to avoid detection by enemy forces. They established their hide site on a ridgeline overlooking the target compound from 800 meters away. Maya's spotter, Sergeant First Class Martinez, had worked with her during advanced training and understood her methodical approach to preparation. Together, they created detailed range cards mapping distances to various points around the compound and calculated ballistic solutions for different environmental conditions. As dawn broke over the valley, Maya observed the compound through her scope while Martinez used a high-power spotting scope to identify personnel and activities. The intelligence had been accurate. Several vehicles arrived during the morning hours, and they identified the target through photographic comparison. The Special Forces team began their approach as the sun climbed higher, moving through covered positions toward the compound. Maya maintained overwatch, ready to engage any threats that might compromise the mission. The responsibility was enormous. The lives of 12 operators depended on her ability to provide accurate covering fire if needed. At 0847 hours, the mission went wrong. Enemy fighters who had been concealed in positions around the compound opened fire on the Special Forces team as they approached the target building. The operators took cover, but were pinned down by heavy machine gun fire from multiple positions. Radio calls for immediate fire support crackled through Maya's earpiece. Sniper 1, this is ground team leader. Need immediate suppression of heavy weapon position. Grid coordinates to follow, came the urgent transmission from the team leader. Maya quickly located the enemy machine gun position through her scope. The range was 650 meters, and the target was partially concealed behind stone walls. She had to neutralize the threat without endangering the friendly forces who were taking cover nearby. The shot would have to be precise, not just accurate. Target acquired. Maya responded into her radio. Request confirmation of friendly positions. After receiving clearance to engage, Maya settled into her shooting position and began her target engagement sequence. The enemy gunner was visible only intermittently as he fired short bursts from his concealed position. Maya would have to time her shot perfectly to catch him during one of his brief exposures. She calculated the ballistic solution quickly. The range, elevation angle, wind speed, and atmospheric conditions all factored into her scope adjustments. The margin for error was minimal, with friendly forces less than 50 meters from the target position. A miss could result in friendly casualties or allow the enemy gunner to continue suppressing the operators. Maya controlled her breathing as she waited for the target to appear. Through her scope, she could see the muzzle flash from the enemy weapon as it fired burst after burst at the pinned Special Forces team. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger, ready to take the shot when the opportunity presented itself. The enemy gunner rose slightly to change his firing position, exposing his head and shoulders for approximately 3 seconds. Maya smoothly squeezed the trigger during her natural respiratory pause, sending a 175 grain-match bullet downrange at over 2,600 feet per second. The shot struck the target's center mass, immediately silencing the machine gun. Target down, Maya reported calmly, already scanning for additional threats. The elimination of the machine gun position allowed the Special Forces team to advance and complete their mission successfully. The high-value target was captured along with several associates, and intelligence materials were recovered from the compound. The operation was considered a complete success. During the after-action review, the team leader specifically commended Maya's precision shooting under combat conditions. That shot saved lives today, he told her. Perfect timing and placement under pressure. But Maya knew that combat shooting was different from range shooting in ways that were hard to explain. The psychological pressure of knowing that lives depended on her accuracy created stress that no training could fully replicate. The adrenaline rush of being shot at while trying to engage targets required mental discipline that went beyond technical shooting skills. Over the following months, Maya participated in dozens of missions throughout Kiener Province. She engaged targets at ranges from 300 to over 1,000 meters, always maintaining the precision that had made her reputation. Her confirmed kills mounted steadily, but more importantly, her ability to provide overwatch and support for ground operations proved invaluable to the task force. Near the end of her deployment, Maya was promoted to Sergeant First Class and recommended for the Bronze Star Medal for her actions during multiple combat operations. But the recognition that meant the most came from the operators she had supported in the field, hardened Special Forces veterans who trusted her completely to watch their backs. On her final mission in Afghanistan, Maya found herself in the same valley where she had taken her first combat shot 8 months earlier. This time, she was training Afghan National Army snipers in long-range marksmanship techniques. The irony was not lost on her. The soldier who had once struggled for acceptance was now responsible for passing on critical skills to the next generation. As the helicopter carried her away from Afghanistan for the last time, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her from that qualification range at Fort Benning to the mountains of Khyber Province. She had proven that exceptional performance could overcome any barrier, and that skill, dedication, and courage mattered more than gender or background. Back at Fort Bragg, Maya was assigned to the sniper school as a senior instructor responsible for training the next generation of Army snipers. Students who attended her classes often heard the story of the female sergeant who had shot a perfect score to earn her place in the special operations community, then proven herself in combat through dozens of successful missions. Maya never mentioned that the soldier in the story was her. She preferred to let her current performance speak for itself, just as she had done throughout her career. But sometimes, when a struggling student needed inspiration or a female soldier asked for advice about succeeding in male-dominated specialties, Maya would share lessons learned from her own journey. "Excellence is the only standard that matters," she would tell them. "Prove yourself through performance. Maintain your standards under pressure. And never let anyone convince you that you don't belong somewhere you've earned the right to be." The 4 perfect shots at 800 meters had been just the beginning. Maya Rodriguez had become one of the Army's premier snipers, instructor, and leader. Her legacy would live on through the hundreds of students she trained and the operators whose lives she had saved through precise marksmanship when it mattered most. But Maya never forgot the lessons her grandfather had taught her on that Texas farm many years earlier. Marksmanship was about more than hitting targets. It was about discipline, responsibility, and the pursuit of excellence in everything you do. Those lessons had carried her through every challenge and would continue to guide her throughout her military career.